Hey, how's it going? So today we're doing a first time. I love doing first times because you learn the most the first time you do something. Today we're going to be working with stained glass, which is going to involve cutting the glass and soldering the glass. So for this project, I'm going to be using mostly picture frame glass just because I have so much of it and it doesn't cost much. I will be adding some stained glass to accent it. I didn't want my first project just to use up all of my nice and slightly more expensive glass. So maybe for my next video, I'll dive into more of the intense colors that I have. But I wanted to be as simple as possible and just give myself the chance to go through the steps. So as you might have picked up from my previous videos, I love hands. I love hand decor. I think they just look so elegant and so expressive. So my first project is going to revolve around a hand. So hopefully this will be a simple enough design, and I don't even know where to start, but let's get into it. So first thing, I draw a few thumbnails of what I want my design to be. I drew a few very similar, simple hand designs and just figured out how many pieces they would be. And then when I decided on one, I drew it a template so I could trace all the pieces of glass. So I had to have a lot of patience with this step because I knew with all my inexperience that I would be breaking so much glass and really having trouble. So slow and steady. I used my grozier pliers to nibble away at the glass. I also didn't have running pliers, which are the pliers that they use to break glass cleanly. So I just had to do this carefully with my hand, and of course it failed a couple times, but we got there. So I tried to work with as many straight edges as possible and to really carefully grind down the edges with my pliers because I knew the next step, most people would have a glass grinder to actually make the edges perfect and really clean for the copper tape to go on next. But I don't have a glass grinder, so I just used sandpaper, which worked adequately, and I do plan on getting a carborundum stone soon, but I just worked with what I had. So for these three hand designs, I decided to go with primary colors. One, I did a yellow accent thumb as well as a pinky. For another, I did blue, and for the final one, I did red. The red one definitely took me the least time. I was really on a roll when I did that one, but I also think that it turned out the messiest, so I was probably rushing it a little bit too much. But with each one, I definitely learned a lot. I think the most important part is really having your pieces of glass fit together nicely. For the step to prep the glass for copper foil, I used 220 grit sandpaper to get the sides as clean as possible, because how smooth you can get the tape on is how smooth your soldering lines are going to be. So this is the step that's really going to make an impact on your final results. So I did my best here. It's not perfect, but I used a technique where I used a little piece of wood. I used a little wooden clothespin to smooth the foil as much as possible and to make sure it was really firmly on the pieces of glass. Just using what I have, and then I also used an X-Acto knife to cut off any of the little poking out angles of the tape just because I wanted it to look as clean as possible. Now for the step that I was most excited for. I couldn't wait to solder these pieces just because I find it so satisfying working with this material. It's something that I can't wait to get better at. So to apply the solder, I first layer liquid flux on the copper foil, and without the liquid flux the solder won't adhere to the copper foil properly, so it really needs to be layered on. And then just moving around the piece, adding dots of liquid flux and then dots of solder to attach all the different pieces front side, and then I flipped it over and did it on the back. I also have a patina solution that I've never used before that just changes the color of the solder to either copper or black. I think I have a copper one, but I've never used it before, but I could definitely try that in a future stained glass video. I love incorporating nature with art, and I was scrolling through Pinterest the other day and I saw these beautiful stained glass pieces that were 2 panes of glass sandwiched together, and in between the glass was pressed flowers and leaves, and I thought it was such a pretty effect. It looked so delicate and so nice, and just a great way to incorporate nature, and I definitely want to try that in the future. I just have to find some really nice flowers to press. Most of my collection is not pressed, but I would love to do it with a fern or some cedar. I love that springtime is finally here. There are flowers sprouting everywhere, and I've been collecting, trust me. I can't wait until we hit those really nice spring days. So the final step for these hand charms was to tack on tiny jump rings at the top of each hand so that I could string them up or put a chain in it or something. And here are the final results. I decided to attach each to a chain and a lobster clasp, just so that I'm able to put it up anywhere I like, anywhere that I have a hook. And I definitely have to find a good spot in front of a window so the light hits it as often as possible, because the reflection of these things are almost just as pretty as the hands themselves, if not more. This is a way that I find stained glass is similar to resin art. It interacts with light in such a beautiful way, and the sunlight can just make it 100 times more beautiful. I really loved working on this project, and I can't wait to get my hands on some textured glass because I've seen some amazing effects done with that, and I can't wait to come up with some new simple designs that I can give this a shot. So thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to get started on my next art project for next Friday. Most likely it will be resin, but it might be stained glass because I really do want to get better at this. It's an actual art medium that I can do in my van without worrying too much about toxic fumes or where I'm going to keep all my resin pieces while they cure if it's not a nice day, and how I get ventilation and all that stuff. So perhaps working with stained glass will be my main medium while I'm traveling, but we'll see when we get there. So thanks so much for watching, and have a good one.